Ready? Hey, just let me know when you're ready. I'm ready to roll, man. All right, let's roll. Now, peep this. When you think about Harvard University, that name alone carries a lot of weight, especially within the United States, and I'm going to say all around the world. The name Harvard carries the weight of prestige and power. But what if I told you that beneath those ivy-covered walls hides a truth that not many are talking about right now? Harvard University has a long documented history of profiting from the pain of black people, and that legacy continues to this very day, from exploiting images of enslaved Africans to upholding modern systems that exclude and erase black voices. Harvard's inhumanity toward black people is not just historical, it's ongoing. And I'm gonna try to break this down.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
This is the Actual Facts Podcast. Thank you so much to Brother Malik for allowing me to be a guest on his platform. And I gotta talk about how one of America's most elite institutions failed the very people whose ancestors it once studied like specimens. You heard that right. You heard that right. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I want to talk about Renty and Delia. Now, I was just reading about this on CNN. In, I want to say 1850, a Harvard professor by the name of Louis Agassiz, he was a white supremacist who promoted racist pseudoscience. Now, he stripped enslaved Africans naked and he photographed them without their consent. Now, right now, these are the earliest known images, according to CNN, of enslaved people in the United States. Now, mind you, photography has not been around for a long time. You got me? So, these was the first known images of individuals who were enslaved in the United States. Renty was a man, and he had a daughter by the name of Delia. Now, they were treated like subjects. They were treated like lab rats. They were treated like chattel property. They were treated as specimens. They were basically part of a sick experiment to justify white racial superiority. But guess what? They called that science then. So now what we're going to do is going to fast forward 170 years. These individuals had a descendant by the name of Tamara Lanier. So now she fought so hard to reclaim those images. And the reason why she fought that hard is because what she was trying to do is recapture her family's dignity. But just like the white supremacists and racists that they are, they refused to release her pictures. You know why? Because they were making money off of the oldest pictures in the United States. You heard that right. Now, you may be asking yourself, how were they making the money? So now, they were using these images on textbooks, in academic conferences, in museum exhibitions, making millions and millions and millions of dollars. Look, they required a licensing fee from anyone who wanted to reproduce the image. And what was so horrible is that they knew who these individuals were, but they referred to Renty as anonymous. Now, even after Miss Lanier provided clear genealogical proof of her lineage, guess what? They still did everything they could do to act as if her words did not matter. Now, she wrote to Harvard University. She was asking them to tell her family story. But guess what they did? They ignored her. So she brought it to the Harvard's student paper. And guess what? They buried the story. Now, what's horrible is that that's not academic science. It's institutional erasure. Do you understand? Now, this is from the most prestigious university. They completely tried to erase the history, even after being provided genealogical proof. When I tell you greed and evil has no limit. And what it tells me is that these people parade around as if they are leaders, but they're not leaders. Real leadership means confronting uncomfortable truth. And the truth is, Harvard University, they have never reckoned with their role in the dehumanization of Black people. I've even read that enslaved individuals built Harvard University. When I tell you these people hate Black people, they have a history of hating, and that legacy of hate is continuing on. They have an inhumane legacy because I'm not even gonna call him Mr. Agassiz. He didn't just take photographs. He weaponized science to dehumanize enslaved African people. And guess what? Harvard University gave him a platform, a prestigious platform that cemented or helped to cement racism in America academia. That's right. Inserted racism into the roots of the educational construct that's America. Continued disrespect. And the reason why I say continued disrespect is because Tamara Lanier provided the research. She provided the records. She provided the oral history, the genealogical research history. She operated from a perspective of transparency. But Harvard University, they dismissed her efforts. They silenced her voice. And they basically said that she didn't have a right to her own ancestors' history, her own ancestors' image. Now, some people, or you watching, you see that I'm emotional. And you may be thinking that this is about a photo. Now, from your racist perspective, it's about a photo. But on the other side, it's about a family member. It's about a father. It's about a community leader who was destroyed, humiliated. And your lies tried to cover it up. The lies of Harvard. It's very angering. Very, very angering. I'm so tired of these institutions who act like they are, I'm going to say, information gatekeepers. Now, Harvard University, they publicly host slavery conferences, but behind closed doors, it maintained control over the very images that symbolized that slavery. So they spoke as if they were okay with freedom and they promoted freedom, but they never talked about the history behind the images that belong to someone else. I hope you understanding what I'm saying. See, a lot of people, they talk about diversity. They talk about equity. They talk about DEI, right? But guess what? This institution, known for prestige and power, refused to return dignity to the descendants of the people they were exploiting, and they were exploiting them for hundreds of years. Now, peep this. Since I'm talking about Harvard University, you know, when it comes to the admissions process at Harvard University, you know, their admissions process has been long critiqued for excluding Black students and favoring legacies and donors. Do you understand? So let's be clear. This video is not just about Renty. It's not just about Delia. It's about a system that sees Black lives as insignificant. In America, Black lives do not matter. That's the reason why, that's the initial reason that certain groups of individuals in America were saying that Black lives matter. Because historically, we can see that Black lives don't have much value and they do not matter. This system sees Black lives as data points, dollar signs. You're just a diversity checkbox. You're not a human being. You're just not. It has been proven historically that you will never be recognized. You know, there's only one group of people who were systematically removed from their history, their heritage, their language, their traditions, their identity, their names, their culture. Only one group who had all of that done to them. And then they were taught some craziness. Look, man, this is not about history. This is about right now. So what in the world are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to consistently keep pushing and headed down a road that is leading to nowhere? At what point in time are you going to stand up and demand accountability, especially from institutions like Harvard University? Because guess what? If they can't do right by Renty and Delia's family, and they claim to teach moral leadership, they got all these leadership courses. They're viewed as prestigious and powerful. Yet they are showing through their own actions that they don't have the humanity that is required to call them human. I want to encourage you to support the Lanier's family lawsuit. They were doing everything in their power to restore dignity to Black ancestors. It's a matter of justice. It's not about symbolism. Look, you got to push for transparency in all universities. It's really, it angers me because this university profited from the legacy of slavery, and a lot of universities profit off of the legacy of slavery. And then they still perpetuate exclusion through admission, through funding, and the decisions that the faculty members make. So you got to reclaim the narrative. Renty was not a slave. If you don't know, do some research. He was a teacher. He was a man. He was a leader. He taught people to read. And if you don't know, it was illegal to read. You would get assassinated if you could read. So he taught others to read under the threat of death. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Literacy was so important back then. Literacy is so important now, even if it costs you your life. I hope you understanding what I'm saying. He was a leader. He was a father. And that's who Harvard University photographed. And they refused to honor him. Now, I want to encourage you to be a leader. And I say that because leadership means that sometimes you have to face a hard decision. You have to make difficult decisions. Sometimes being a real leader or leadership means that you got to break a cycle, not reinforce it. Now, there's a cycle, a negative, hateful, atrocious cycle of knowledge being suppressed, of information being suppressed. And if we consistently support that, we are on our way to a world of nothing. This is the actual facts. And I'm telling you, Harvard University wants the prestige without the accountability. But Renty and Delilah's story, you need to do the research on it. I say that because it put me in a position where I was forced to ask a question. How in the world can any person move forward if they don't address truth, if they don't speak truth to power? How can you move forward if an institution that built their power on the back of individuals who were enslaved still hold those individuals in chains? Look, if this type of content vibrates with you, do me a favor. Hit the like button. I'm certain that we have 3 subscribers because my content is not the type of content that people even care about. But if you care about it, drop a comment below. And I got a question. Do you think that Harvard University should have already returned these images to the descendants? Should they offer reparations? Let's talk about that right there. You got what I'm saying? Now, some people gonna be like, no, it belonged to them. They bought the camera equipment. Think about that. Facts over feelings, man. Stay informed, stay engaged. I tell you, man, sometimes I think to myself, what is this world gonna be after I'm gone? Man, I teach my family. I try to empower my family with the knowledge of who they are. I tell them that penitentiary rules are always in effect. I tell them to respect their self and respect those around them. Because people live and die on respect. That's how important it is. I don't spare their feelings. It's always facts over feelings. So, as I'm talking, to the camera, sometimes I just wonder if they feel me, because I want them to feel me. And I try to, sprinkle a little humor, but I want them to understand how important it is. Because if we keep going down the road that we're on right now, they don't address history in school. So you got to empower yourself and put yourself in a space where you can afford to educate yourself. You can purchase the books. Because if you allow this school system that is built on a social system that was established against your people, they're never going to teach you about your own people. They will teach you nothing but lies. And you'll grow up consuming mentally the lies and think that that's acceptable. But that's not acceptable. We got to wake up. And if we don't wake up, I am afraid that we'll go to sleep forever. And if you go to sleep forever and you don't have a knowledge of yourself, then what will happen is, well, I'll tell you this. I told my people, and we've all heard that if you don't have a plan, then you plan to fail. Look, if you don't have a plan will be made for you. That's what'll happen. They will make a plan for you. And I assure you that their plan for you and your plan for yourself, or your lack thereof, it won't create a desired outcome for you. People hate you, not because you did anything wrong to them, but just because you are who you are. They hate that you come from everything. They did everything to destroy you. And you still becoming CEOs of companies. You still understanding business credit. You still, shining bright. They hate that. So they never want to reconnect you with your past. So you got to connect yourself, because you cannot depend on them to educate you. Because Education, what does it do? It induces something that's already there. It brings out greatness within you. That's what real education is designed to do. And if we can't get that, bro, I'm telling you, man, we're going to be in trouble. So a lot of times, I got these thoughts in my mind, these topics in my mind that I talk about. But what I don't want to happen is I don't want to just be nothing. So many people, I be looking at YouTube all the time and I see us sometimes we're not taking things serious. Everyone else is taking things serious. Even now they allow things on television that they would never allow on television 50 years ago. Times have changed, but times are changing for the worse. Even look at the African-American community. Look, things were better when things were segregated, but what happened is people saw black people succeeding and they said, oh, no, you trying to succeed without me? No, I'm going to make sure that you do not succeed without my intervention. And once, desegregation happened, guess what? That was like the destruction of successful black people. I'm telling you, it seems as if this system that they want to work, they only want you to be dependent on them. Because once they see that you can do things without them and you doing work, they got to create a plan to make it where you depend on them. I'm telling you, man, it's stressful, man. And sometimes I feel like, you ever heard like the term, heavy is the crown when you wearing it? You got what I'm saying? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Sometimes I feel like it really is a crown of thorns because you feel the responsibility, a painful responsibility of trying to teach, of trying to educate, of trying to facilitate a mental space of improvement. And it's in direct competition with the system of education that's already put in place. See, there's already a system of education put in place, and we're told that that's the model of intelligence. That's the model. And that intelligent quotient is based off fundamentally flawed ideas, culturally biased tests that are standardized to whose standard? A standard that was automatically against you, and we still rise in their situation. And I'm telling you, we hate it because of that, man.